So good evening, guys. Once again, we are back with the day six evening session of this daily answer wars, CD Warzone and Warzone Prime. So again, we will be discussing and evaluating all the answers that you have written for this question. And I think we have got many answers, and all of you have written pretty well. And we have tried to review as much copies as possible, and also we will encourage you guys to peer review the answers so that you guys understand how to write the answers and check yourself that how to do better. So now let us start this session again. Today we have changed the session a bit. Like we will try to first again discuss the question, what all we could have written in the answer, a basic framework of the answer, and then you can shoot your doubts in the chat section, which I'll try to address. And after that, we will move to the evaluation part. Evaluation also we have changed a bit, tweaked a bit today, and we have tried to get into the process of evaluation, how an examiner evaluates the answer, and we will try to do live evaluation in this session. So once again, welcome to this session, and I hope you are enjoying this whole practice of answer writing. And meanwhile, your skills are also improving, and you are understanding how to write and present good answers in GS papers. So good evening, Nisha. So first, let us start with discussing the question. Question was pretty simple today. It was basically what is learning poverty and highlighting the reasons behind learning poverty in India. You needed to mention the steps taken to address the issue. So learning poverty has been in news, especially after this COVID pandemic. What has happened after the COVID pandemic is that many World Bank has done a research and it has found that many students, many uh, children in India are not able to read even the basic text and understand what all it is written in that text. So this they have coined a term called learning poverty, and they have defined it accordingly. So I'll show you a basic model framework of the answer today, and let us move and see how we could have written this answer. So first of all, in introduction, we could have just defined what learning poverty is. Like learning poverty means being unable to read and understand a short age appropriate text by age 10. Like the age limit given by the World Bank is 10 years, and if you are not able to understand a simple text by 10 years, it is considered that the learning poverty is there in the country. So you could have just mentioned this definition in the introduction, and after that, as I have told you guys, that you could have just mentioned a data point. Like World Bank has told that 70% of children in India by the age of 10 are not able to read a simple text. So this was a good data point also, which you could have incorporated in the introduction itself. And as I have gone through the copies, many guys have again started writing about pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. All of those was not required here. Introduction. This was a 10 marker, so introduction needed to be kept a bit simple. So just mentioning the definition and one data point would have been sufficient enough. And as I have shown in this model answer, you can see that just defining learning poverty and then mentioning one data point about 70% of children by the age 10 are not able to read a simple text would have been a simple and efficient introduction. After that, you could have moved to the reasons for learning poverty, because again in the question they have asked, basically this is exclusively asked the reasons for learning poverty. So you could have mentioned the reasons. Again, in this part also, meaning students, what they have done is they have written completely in the context of COVID pandemic. But learning poverty is not there only in the context of COVID. Of course, COVID has aggravated this issue that due to many school closures and all, learning poverty in India has increased, for example, say from 55% to 70%. But 55% is also a sufficient number. So you just needed to show how that all other reasons also you had to write that what all other reasons are also contributing to this learning poverty. Good evening, Dipali. Good evening, Saiba. Saira, good evening. Pratik, good evening. So again, moving to the reason, could have just mentioned that for one of the main reasons is like we have poor study material. The textbook qualities are not sufficient, good enough. So you could have just mentioned that poorly designed study material like textbooks, learning materials, etc., are one of the reasons. Again, learning poverty is not a very mutually exclusive concept, because if you are not getting good nutrition, if you are not getting a healthy environment, poverty is existing in the household, then it is very difficult to ensure that by caregivers, etc. By caregivers, I mean parents and guardians and all of like that category of people. Then there is also a focus in Indian education system on rote learning. So you could have also mentioned about rote learning in this part. Quality of schools and school education is also a very debated topic in India. Even in elections, we see that school education is a very prominent topic, and even in many parts of the country, we see that the school management and the quality of schools are not good. Even the infrastructure is lacking. So you could have mentioned poor school management as also one of the reasons. Also, Niti Aayog in a recent report has just shown that even the teachers who teach in these schools, most of them are not capable enough. So 60 to 70% uh, teachers are not capable to teach the grades they teach. So you could have also mentioned that lack of quality teachers is also an issue that contributes to the learning poverty in India. And as I have already said, this infrastructure and resources, you could have mentioned that there is no proper facility of drinking water, toilets, sanitation, and all of these could have been mentioned, aggravated this issue. So COVID-19 pandemic, school closures, and the economic crisis is also one of the prominent reasons which could have mentioned. But be sure that you just don't mention only COVID-19 pandemic. All of these reasons are also those reasons which contribute to the learning poverty in India. So this was the reasons part. The next part of the question, they asked us to mention some of the steps taken. Here you had to notice that they have not talked only about India, steps taken by the government of India. So you can also talk about steps taken globally. For example, the World Bank recently launched a new operational global learning target to cut the learning poverty rate by at least half before 2030. So you could have mentioned this point about World Bank, and then you could have talked about some of the most prominent initiatives that India has taken to address this issue. One of them is this national education policy, which was again very much in news, and a lot of articles we have read about this. So, this national education policy has a feature which calls for achieving foundational skills. And these foundational skills, this is a bit different from learning poverty, because this also includes like your writing skills and arithmetic skills. So, focus on these foundational skills has been a core issue that national education policy uh, tries to address. So, you could have mentioned this also. And after that, you could have mentioned the newer initiatives like Nipun Bharat. Here, the government has launched this initiative for proficiency in reading and understanding and numeracy. You could have mentioned there was an initiative called NISTHA. NISTHA is for holistic training of the teachers. So, capacity development program for teachers and school heads was also launched, and this was launched by the NCERT. So, you could have mentioned this one also. And Niti Aayog has also released a school education quality index, which aims to shift the focus of learning outcomes. Basically, they want to focus on this reading and writing and numeracy part rather than the outcome, that is the results. So, school education quality index could also have been mentioned by you in this. And I think these 4 5 points were sufficient enough in a 10 marker to show that you have read the government initiatives in this direction, and I think that would have been sufficient. After that, the way forward could have mentioned again. You could have mentioned a simple 3 4 points on way forward. So some of these ideas you can mention like ensure political and technical commitment to clear goals, means, and measures for literacy. So if you don't have, if the politicians or the men in power don't have the political will for these clear goals and measures for literacy, we'll always have an issue. So you could have talked about this, and also there has been a debate over this vernacular language teaching in the language that the children understand, especially in the foundational years. So you could have added this point that first teach the children in the language they speak and understand. After that, they could have gone for other languages. Also, teacher professional development plan is also an important initiative that could have been taken to address the quality of teachers. Teacher professional development plan emphasizes practicing specific classroom skills. Like it is important not only to be knowledgeable enough, but you need to be a good teacher. You need to have good presentation skills in the classroom. So that is also an important point for this teacher professional development plan. Again, you could have also mentioned about digital literacy, because there is a rural-urban digital divide, which many of you have mentioned in the reasons, and that is a fair enough reason. You could have mentioned that, and you could have talked about ensuring digital literacy, so that last mile connectivity and even to the remote parts, to the parts where infrastructure has not reached, we can reach and ensure that the students are at least, children are at least able to improve upon their reading skills till the age of 10. Again, you could have also mentioned one point like ensure timely access to more and better age and skill appropriate text. Like what is the issue is that many students don't get the text that they should be reading in that particular class. So that is also an issue that could have been addressed. And so skill appropriate and age appropriate text is also a point which you could have mentioned in the way forward. So this was the basic framework of the answer. Like introduction, you could have just defined learning poverty, mentioned the data point, then talked about the reasons for the learning poverty, mentioned some government steps, and written these 3 4 way forward points. After that, you could have concluded. So conclusion should be a balanced one, a bit balanced one. So you can just give a cautionary statement that if we don't do something now, this generation will have lower productivity, lower earnings, lower well-being in the future, and we need to avoid that. But try to give a bit of hope also. So to be optimistic, you can talk about working with governments and development partners to improve entire education systems is the need of the hour. Like we need to involve all the stakeholders from the government sector, private sector, and every sector, like even the parents and the students themselves, so that the holistic coverage of education system is done and the learning poverty issue is tackled in India. So this conclusion basically includes both the points. Like it is also giving a caution on what happens if we don't address this issue, and also giving a optimistic statement about what is the need of the hour and how we can improve upon this situation in the country on learning poverty. So I think that was the basic answer framework, and most of the guys have written along these lines only. There are some improvements which you could have done, like some of the guys have not written other reasons, focused only on COVID-19 pandemic, so that could have been avoided. Also, some guys have missed to write this way forward, so you could have also added the way forward, and otherwise, rest of the things, I think most of you guys have got correct. And I have also seen the peer reviews that you guys are doing, and I think that is a very great thing that you are doing. So I feel that there is no more need of like reviewing each and every answer, because the peer reviews are pretty accurate, and I think this is the core concept of this initiative, so that you can keep on writing without the need of a mentor every time. Of course, we are there and we will help you whenever required. And also, if you need specific handholding skills, you can just join the Prime initiative that we have launched along with this normal CD War Zone. So now let us move towards the answers that some of you guys have written. We will discuss the good copies and see that what all changes could have been made and what all betterment could have been done even in those good copies. So first of all, let us look at this answer by Archana. So uh, her answer is fine. Like she has started with talking about this World Bank, but I think again first you could have defined learning poverty first, because the question is specifically asking about learning poverty. So this definition could have been written first. Then you could have talked about this data point about the World Bank. Current status, I don't think it was required here because this is only a 10 marker. So you could have avoided this part. Uh, After that, you could have moved on to reasons. Reasons are quite good. Like stagnation is also one of the issues. Uh, Resource deficit, like you can talk about infrastructure and all. Internet, you can talk about holistic, like you have just mentioned internet connectivity, but holistic discussion would be fine. Again, nutrition, unhealthy environment, all these things could be mentioned here, along with this poverty that you have mentioned. Economic challenges is also fine. Lack of discipline is not that big a issue, but still okay, it is fine. COVID-19 pandemic is a good point. Then next, you have talked about steps taken to address the issue. Right to Education Act, yeah, this is also a good point, but this again is not specifically related to learning poverty. This is basically related to the holistic education sector, and this question was on learning poverty, so you could have checked on that. International student assessment, this is also a decent point, but I think not a very subjective objective point. Like you have not written what the government has done and all. Samagra Shiksha is a good point. Updation of an NCRT is also a decent point. National education policy is mentioned, so that is good. Best practice others integrated school system of Rajasthan must be implied again, like I have asked you that don't try to write new points in the conclusion. So in conclusion, you can just summarize or give a balanced conclusion addressing the whole of the issue. And also a way forward is missing in this answer, I think. So you could have added a way forward, and here also you could have mentioned some initiatives, like some recent initiatives like Nipun Bharat, Nishtha, and all, and these are very important initiatives regarding to learning poverty. So decent attempt, I will say. Presentation is good, handwriting is good, and overall the look of the answer is good, but some things are missing, for example this way forward and some of the government schemes. So I think you will get 4 marks out of 10 in such an answer. Status was not asked, so this is an extra thing that you have written. So please try to ensure that whatever is asked in the question you write that. After that you can move on to this extra things. So this was Archana's answer. Next we move to Anirudh's answer. Anirudh has also started well. Learning poverty is not being able to read a short text and understand for a 10-year-old child. That is fine. The percentage is often high in developing countries like India. It is also fine. According to ESSER survey in rural Karnataka, grade 3 students in government school who were able to perform simple. So again, this is not about simple subtraction or ESSER survey. So you can adjust it according to the World Bank data, and I think that should be fine. Learning poverty is basically just about reading text. So you can see that this is not related to reading text. So this data point could be avoided, and a better suited data point could be written here. Reasons: COVID-19 pandemic. During the pandemic, again in this answer, like you can see, you have written mostly about pandemic. The all first 3 points is all about pandemic. So you can just summarize all these 3 points in one point and try to address other issues also, like infra issues, issues with the study material, rote learning, and all of those things could be added here. Otherwise, structuring of your answer is quite fine. Though some schools conducted the classes through the digital medium, most students didn't have access to. So this is fine. Digital unavailability is also an issue. Steps taken by government. Nipun Bharat is fine. Diksha is also fine. Swayam Prabha TV channel is good. But these things are like not related to 10 till age 10. So Swayam Prabha is basically for till 12 standard. So you can see that this is one step ahead. So try to write the basic things, like you can talk about training the teachers, and you can talk about like Samagya Shiksha is a good point here. So you can mention more of those things. Uh, Reasons could have been improved, like you have just mentioned about COVID-19 pandemic. So that can be improved here. Otherwise, your answer is also decent. Way forward is fine. Re-enrollment incentives and teacher training schemes, strengthening school. So these are okay, decent points. Learning poverty is yeah, okay. From conclusion is also good. So Anirudh, you will also get 4 marks out of 10 in this answer, because most of your structure of the answer is fine, and you have also understood what the question is asking and what all was to be written. But ये reasons को थोड़ा सा अगर आप अच्छा कर लेते, reasons is not very good, because you have just stuck to the pandemic thing. So that could have given you some more marks. So this was Anirudh's answer. Next we move on to Abhishek's answer. Abhishek Mishra, what is learning poverty? Okay. So again, started with World Bank by the age of 10. So this is fine. So a data point can be added here in the introduction. Otherwise, the intro is fine. There are certain reasons: family income, poor conditions of school. This is okay. Poor sanitation, pandemic-like situation, low budget allocation. So okay, your reasons are good enough, I think. And then you have moved on to steps taken. So new education policy is mentioned. So this is also good. Government initiative is fine. Since government initiatives asked, you can just explain on one or two of these initiatives, like what all they try to do. For example, you can mention that teacher competency here. You can mention about Nishtha, and again Nipun Bharat could be mentioned here. Also, some of these initiatives could be mentioned, like what all they are aiming to do. Just mentioning it won't cut it, because the question is exclusively asking about the government initiatives. Otherwise, your answer is also decent. Sathi initiative of Odisha, you can avoid like particular state related initiatives, because this is pan India problem. And so more of these are case studies basically. So case studies you can mention separately. when talked about government steps taken, you can be a bit more broad rather than going state-wise. In way forward, you can mention these points as examples, so that would be better, like following the model of Adarsh program of Rajasthan or Sati initiative of Odisha. Otherwise, your way forward is fine. Schools reopening, proper school infra building, compliance with SDG 4. Okay. Conclusion. In conclusion, I think this statement is not very good. You have just like not framed it properly. Although I understand what you are meaning to say, but try to write proper statements. Like here, you have written as education being our fundamental right of Article 21A. It is fine. Here should be better if it will practice with some enthusiasm, which was in pre-sat while amending law. I think there's some problem language issues, so you can improve upon this a bit. Write coherent, simple sentences. Try to form short sentences, and I think that will be good enough. But still, your answer is content rich. You have tried to mention most of the government schemes. Also added some state related things. So I think 4.5 out of 10 you will get in this answer. Abhishek. Next, we move to Ritu's answer. What is learning poverty? Okay. So again, definition is fine, learning poverty. So most of you guys have written good definitions, like you have understood what learning poverty is. Try to add a data point that makes the introduction better. Otherwise, definition is all fine. Reasons for learning, global pandemic, poor infrastructure. Again, so good that you can see, guys, that this answer is pretty uh, data rich. So this will certainly give some bonus marks, like all of these data, 70% of shooting up, and then 16% here. So again, subtraction can be avoided. You can just talk broadly about learning issues, foundational issues. Also, this point is not a bit related. Like poor infrastructure here, you are talking about not learning subtraction. Poor infrastructure should be more about school infrastructure, like drinking water issues, issues of toilets and all. So you could have mentioned those things here. This is more related to quality of education. Poor nutritious intake is a good point. This is also fine. Poor teacher to children ratio here. You can also talk about the quality of teaching. Gender disparity is also a good point, but I will suggest you can just check out the data once, because actually female gender is more in school than the male, and I think learning poverty outcomes are better for uh, females than males. Steps to be taken you have written, but first mention that what all steps have been taken already. Question is specifically asking, like you can see here, mention steps taken. So this is steps already taken. So your answer just moves on to way forward. So I think you can improve upon this. Here you can talk about some of the government schemes or the scheme of World Bank. So those things could be mentioned here. Otherwise, your steps taken is fine. Again, neat and clean answer. All of these things are good. Good number of examples. If you are able to remember and write all of this, it will be very impressive, I think. But try to write the demand, whatever is asked in the question. First, try to meet the demand of the question, and then move to these things. Conclusion is also fine. You have talked about SDG 4 bilateral also. Yeah, okay. Some futuristic statement is there, and I think this is a decent enough conclusion. But because you have not mentioned government schemes, I think your marks will be deducted here. 3.5 out of 10 you will get in this answer, Ritu. Next, we move to Tejaswi's answer. Too long introduction. You can just reduce the size of this introduction. Try to finish it within 3 lines, 4 lines. First line is fine. After that, you can just mention the data point. This last line is not at all needed. This highlights the state of learning. So no need to write these flowery sentences, because you are just addressing the question, and try to be more objective in your approach. Reasons behind learning poverty is fine. Closure of schools is okay. Not well organized. Again, quality of schools. So again, you have restricted your answer to schools only. So try to also talk about like teachers. Try to talk about nutritional issues, poverty issues, unhealthy environment. So all those things can be added. Steps taken is also, you are writing two long points. Try to address, just write the basics point here, like in 3 4 words, and then just very briefly in one line only define it, and try to mention more number of points rather than explaining that you have just mentioned 2 points and explained it in a lot of space. So try to mention more points and explain it so in crisp manner. Otherwise your structuring are also fine. Good answer. This point is too long. Like here you can frame 2 3 points out of this, because the examiner will not go on to read so much of things. He will just see whatever your main issues you are trying to convey and move on. So try to just underline the main things whatever you have written. If you are not writing it in separate points, at least make sure that your different points are visible enough. Way forward, reopening of schools, convincing the students to re-enroll, focusing on ramping students. Okay, way forward is fine enough. It will be decent way forward, like 5 points you have mentioned, ensuring the fundamental step that I have to. Okay, conclusion. In conclusion, also you have summarized basically your answer, and it is also optimistic. So I think it will work here. So no issues with that. But yeah, like intro can be improved, and also this steps taken can be also improved. So 3.5 out of 10 you will also get in this answer, Tejasvi. Next we move to Deepali's answer. So look at this answer, guys. Like this is very neat. Examiner will get happy first of all on reading this answer itself, because it's pretty neat and clean, and there's no issue in understanding whatever she has written and what all main points she wants to convey in this answer. Definition is fine. Data point is also fine. Reasons behind, again, good reasons. All of these reasons are good. Well, okay. Steps taken is also fine. Nipun Bharat, Diksha, Daisy, and iOS website, Swayam Prava. This can be adjusted a bit. Otherwise, it is fine. You can also mention about teachers here, like quality of teachers is also a very prominent issue for learning poverty. So you can address that. Otherwise, your answer is very good. Way forward is also very good. So see here, guys. In conclusion, she have just mentioned some keywords like focus on three. These are catchy conclusions, so you can try. You guys can also try to incorporate such things in your conclusions. Educate, encourage, enlightenment. There's no need to like even if you don't remember like 3 E's of NEP, you can just frame 3 E's or 3 D's, anything, and you can just write it to make it more innovative in the conclusion. So good answer. I think you will get 5.5 out of 10 in this answer. Dipali. Structuring of the answer is also good and content is also fine. Next we move to Abhi's answer. This is also a well written answer. Learning poverty has been defined. Data point has been mentioned. Reasons are also good. Poor learning outcomes, digital divide, multidimensional poverty, gender disparities. Gender disparities point can be adjusted a bit in the context of learning poverty. It is not about whole education sector. It is only about learning poverty. So you can just check your data once. COVID-19 pandemic can also be mentioned, because this is when this topic has come in discussion. So that has been one of the prominent issues. In reasons you can mention about closure of schools and all. Government interventions you have written well. NEP is fine. Nipun Bharat is fine. Samarg Shiksha Abhiyan is also good. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao is also good. Okay, again teachers training point has been missed, so you can add that here. So this approach I have just told you guys, like you can use this approach whenever you have a lot of content or your space is less. Like you can adjust your way forward or any part of your answer which has not been exclusively asked in this manner. Like you can check here. He has just mentioned 4 5 good points in flowchart. So this has saved both the space and time. So these things can be incorporated in your answers, guys. You don't need to write all the sections in like point wise format. Try mentioning those sections which has been exclusively asked point wise by explaining a bit. Otherwise, all other sections can be presented in this format. As also highlighted the World Bank. Okay. Conclusion is also fine. You can talk in the context of India here. need of the hour for India, you can mention here. Otherwise, this will also work. This is a decent conclusion. SDG, mentioning SDG is a good conclusion basically. So I think Abhi, you will also get 5.5 out of 10 in this answer. Some of the points that I talked, like about pandemic, about teachers, that those things you could have mentioned to get half more marks. Otherwise, decent attempt, and I think this is one of the best copies that today you guys have written. So I think this was the basic answer framework and the perspective in which the examiners try to check the answers or review the answers. So I'll hope that you guys keep on peer reviewing your answers, check each other's answers in this perspective only. We will be coming to help you along the way and also suggest good practices in answer writing. Whatever points we think we can incorporate better or we can make you incorporate better, we will try suggesting that. And also, I think you will keep on writing this and try to encourage this peer review process, because the program that we had launched, one of the main core objectives of our program was peer reviewing. So I think that has been going on well, and I will encourage you guys to do more of the peer reviews. And we will also be supporting you guys on the way. And also, if any of you think that you need proper handholding, and for each answer evaluation, you need a proper structured feedback, so you can just join the Prime initiative, guys. So that was that for today, guys. Again, we will meet with the next day 7 of this daily answer was day after tomorrow, and we will take forward this initiative. Charisma, good evening. Dipali, thank you. Okay. So I think this, actually I tried to try something new and review it in a manner in which you just get an insight into how the answers are checked, like how we try to check the how the examiners try to check the answers. So we decided to move on with some very good copies and try to find uh, what all we could have more written more or incorporated more, and we will be doing this in the process. We will also try to review more and more answers and come back again with some more answer copies and try to remove the deficiencies of all those guys who have been consistent and writing every day in this initiative, taking part with all their full enthusiasm. And we will try to help you along this way and make you pros at answer writing. So again, we will meet day after tomorrow with a new day and a new topic. And by then, I will also announce the good copies for today in the Telegram group. Try to ensure that you just uh, update your notes from those copies if you have missed any of these points. Although today's question was a bit simple, and I think if you have most of the guys that I've checked have written the answers along these lines only. And going forward, we will try to bring more innovation in this program and try to structure it a bit better and keep answer writing, keep peer reviewing, guys, because that is also core part of this program. And also, we will hope that you participate in the night owl discussions that we'll be having at 10 p.m. today in the Telegram group. So thank you guys very much. Again, we'll meet with a new topic on the day 7 of this daily answer wars.